Disclosure, Alchemy album review. Let's chat about it. Hey friends, what's going on? John here from What's Spinning, here tonight to chat about this latest album from electronic duo based out of the UK, Disclosure, who many years ago, in their infancy, released a little album called Settle, and for me, this was my album that just fixed modern house music for me. Instantly, the duo just seemed just way ahead of everybody else as far as EDM and house music, electronic, and dance went. The grooves on this thing just go so hard, and more importantly, Disclosure had an unbelievable knack for bringing on just the right vocal guests. Now, a couple of years later, in 2015, they followed that up with 2015's Caracal, which is an album that at the end of the day, I had a lot more mixed feelings on. This was sort of a more average album as far as I was concerned. I mean, on one hand, when the right vocal guest was on duty, like a Jessie Ware or The Weeknd, business was as usual and business was freaking good, honestly. But then there were just as many tracks on here that I already felt like Disclosure was kind of just drifting into the muck and mire that is modern house music, just kind of blending in with the crowd, and that really hurt me at the end of the day, because I was really into what they were doing at first. Now, a couple of years ago, back in 2020, they did release the Energy album. This was their first album in 5 years, and for me, while not as perfect as their debut, I thought this was a good return to form. It is not the monumental genre shift that their debut was back in the day, but this was them going back to their roots, doing what they do best, and most importantly, once again, coming through with a staggering list of vocalists that I thought was really solid. Now, this is a surprise new album. I mean, they didn't give us any time to really, get prepared for this thing. They announced it last Thursday, and it came out last Friday. And leading up to this, I need some good house music. I haven't had a lot of good house music. I barely talk about house on this channel just because of just the wasteland that it is right now. And I thought that maybe this album, would lift my spirits a little bit. Oh, God. This album starts off with Looking for Love, and instantly, this is rough. This is some of the most plain Jane, below average house music that I've heard in quite some time. And for me, a great treat for Disclosure albums is hearing them come through with really fresh beats and solid production, and then curating the album with some really fantastic, expertly crafted vocal guests. There is not one vocal guest on this entire album. And because of that, we have Disclosure on vocals throughout this entire album, and they've lent their vocals here and there, but man, let me tell you, especially on this project right here, they do not live up to the hype. They do not deliver on these beats. Speaking of the beats, most of them are very average, very run-of-the-mill. This track especially, this does not sound like a Disclosure anything. I mean, if you're absolutely just thirsty for all sorts of house right now, you could give this a shot, but just don't be shocked if this sounds dime a dozen to you. And let me tell you, because that this album has no vocal guests, I really struggled to get through this thing. It's just so average. Higher than ever before, Disclosure take half of this track trying to build up an atmosphere desperately. But between the flimsy-ass production and this beat that sounds ripped, kicking and screaming out of Sonic Adventure, it's average. Like, you could have told me this was any who's who in any modern festival DJ, and I'd believe you. It's just nothing special, and the few lyrics and vocals that we get here, who asked for this? And then we have a little bit, which is just obnoxious on every level. This beat is so painfully boring, and the vocals here are the worst that we get on this entire project. It's not even close either. They are trying so hard, from a duo that have done so well with so little in the past. To me, they're just so much better than this. And the Someday interlude, wow, this is one of the most out-of-place interludes that I have heard all year. I mean, Thundercat could literally sue them for this interlude, because it literally sounds ripped off of the golden age of the apocalypse. This is not a good album, and I really do feel bad saying that. I think this is actually by far their worst album. I mean, there are some moments here that we get some real magic, and when they put their heads together and put something together that's good, it's actually pretty awesome. Like Simply Won't Do. I sincerely love this track. I love the futuristic production and the slick beat. The production is great as far as the vocals go. It's short, it's sweet, it's simple, and one of the best offerings on this entire project. And the groove is nothing short of legit. I mean, still, this doesn't hold a candle to anything on Settle, but this is still better than most modern house. Go the Distance, I really love as well. I love the upbeat groove that we get here. This reminds me a lot of what they were doing on their last album, Energy. It's got a strong groove, and once again, vocal and lyric-wise, they keep it simple, and it's all I need to be happy. It's simple, but let me tell you, it goes really hard, especially the final minute of this track. It is wild. And not for nothing, We Were in Love might be the best track here. I mean, you can argue that this beat isn't the flashiest of the bunch. I mean, honestly, at the end of the day, this is more IDM leaning than anything. But it's light on the ears, it's fun, I could definitely groove to this. And on top of all that, here's a wild thought, this track actually progresses. It feels complete, and without their sort of lackluster songwriting and vocals, this track shines. I'll be honest, the second half of this album has a lot of bright spots. Like Sun Showers, for example. I love the playful synth on this track, as well as the shimmering production. I mean, yeah, they've done tracks like this better in the past, but this is lighthearted and a lot of fun. I love how heady and hazy and hard to place this track gets, glitchy as well. Like, I feel like if we got more tracks like this, and more tracks of them trying too hard, we wouldn't be in this mess right now. And speaking of big risks, Purify, 9 tracks in, I don't know what made them bust out an ambient piece, but it's actually really cool. It's chilled out, it's got a hell of an atmosphere, it's a real shot out of left field, but it works so well. But then, sadly, they really dropped the ball with this album's finale. I just feel like they're so much better than this. Like, take, for example, Brown Eyes. Like, why the hell is this track so ugly? The entire first portion of this tune did not need to be here. This lo-fi production doesn't do anybody any good. It sounds like a toilet flushing. And when things clear up, it's just more of the same. A beat that I could have made myself, piss poor songwriting, average production. And Talk on the Phone as a finale is sadly not much better. I mean, this is their attempt at a larger-than-life sort of festival anthem to get you up and moving, but I feel like they fall flat on their face. I mean, the shiny synths are actually pretty good, but the vocals, the presentation, the lack of character, I'm done, man. They're so much better than this. I was expecting something fun that will get me up and moving, but most of this album, I've just been pining from where they are. I would take Caracal over this album, and I wasn't even that big of a fan of this thing. This is honestly really heartbreaking. This is Disclosure just kind of fading into the modern house scene and doing a really ugly job of it and putting out some of their least fun and, personality-filled music to date. It's very upsetting to me. Feeling a decent 4 on this album. Let me know what you all think down below. If you liked the video, be sure to give us a like, give us a subscribe, and let me know down below what you would like for me to chat about in the future. And until next time, have a great day, friends.